Information is the most important element on the battlefield. Obtaining data and creating counterintelligence is the most effective way to defeat your opponent. With intelligence, you get critical information about the other side's military deployments, air bases, drone flight areas, naval ports, and many other strategic areas. Attacks can also be organized as pinpoint attacks within the scope of this data. Russia thinks it has proven itself to the whole world in this regard, especially the head of state Vladimir Putin, as a former KGB agent, has repeatedly mentioned that the intelligence network in his country is very special and strong. But is it really so? Is Russia the world leader in spying, as Putin claims? If so, why did Russia ask for 1,500 special operations personnel and more than 100 spies among the tens of thousands of North Korean troops it supplied? Yes, you heard right. Spies. Even in the area where Russia is at its best, it is now receiving support from North Korea. As tragicomic as this situation is, Putin probably no longer trusts his own spy network as much as he used to, and is importing Jong-un's agents. Let's take a closer look at how North Korean agents, who have also destroyed Putin's reputation as a former KGB agent, infiltrated Ukraine, what they did there, and how they were exposed. South Korea was the first to expose North Korea's spy relationship with Russia. South Korea discovered that the North Korean General Bureau of Reconnaissance, which oversees espionage operations abroad, had sent several hundred agents to the Russian-Ukrainian war in early November. This critical data was confirmed by North Korean soldiers. A source inside North Korea said that the deployment of special infiltration and reconnaissance units was aimed at strengthening North Korea's comprehensive strategic partnership with Russia. The decision to send North Korean agents came in early October, following Russia's request for combat assistance. Prior to the deployment, the North Korean agents underwent rigorous preparation, including fitness tests and training in tactics, basic Russian language, and operation of Russian military equipment. The agents were warned that battlefield conditions would differ from their training and were instructed to study Russian military tactical experience over the past 3 years. To demonstrate their expertise, Jong-un's agents received additional training in reconnaissance and intelligence analysis, and upon arrival, they immediately ensured operational deployment. Some agent units that completed climate and terrain adaptation training in Russia have been sent directly to the battlefield, while others are awaiting deployment to a training center in the Russian Far East. Their tasks include information gathering, battle planning, special operations support, electronic reconnaissance, and jamming. They use hacking and other techniques to monitor the movements of Ukrainian forces in real time and report to military commanders. They use their training in special operations, including assassinations and kidnappings, to help agents identify effective attack targets through environmental analysis. North Korean agents reportedly conduct tactical missions using suicide drones to attack rival leadership and undermine combat morale. The Kremlin regime sees cooperation with the Russian military as an excellent opportunity to gain modern tactical experience and learn about state-of-the-art weapon systems, both directly and indirectly. The North Korean side, on the other hand, sees the deployment of its agents on the battlefield as a way to counter international isolation. Pyongyang hopes that the sacrifices of its agents and other military units will encourage Russia to help weaken UN sanctions and establish lasting military ties. Pyongyang also believes that the deployment can strengthen its military capabilities, increase foreign military operations, and enhance military cohesion with Russia. However, the fact that the North Korean agents deployed on the battlefield were discovered by South Korea, and that the Ukrainians were also aware of the situation, suggests that the joint move by Moscow and Pyongyang is ineffective. If North Korea continues to deploy more of its agents on the battlefield, the Ukrainian Intelligence Directorate will probably know about it, and the Intelligence Directorate will reduce or end the presence of these agents, either by destroying them or by persuading them to surrender. South Korea's intelligence assistance to Ukraine in this regard is, of course, undeniable. But Ukraine's intelligence network is also larger and stronger than ever. Backed by a close alliance with its Western friends and excellent technological resources, Ukraine has a powerful set of strategies and tools to combat this growing threat. Through real-time intelligence exchange, Ukraine can track the movements of North Korean agents and detect their operations. Ukraine's artificial intelligence applications, such as Mega Army, drones, and other military resources, are capable of tracking every step North Korean agents take on the battlefield. For example, using artificial intelligence, Mega Army can analyze over 1,500 ground vehicles in real time. This will prevent North Korean agents from being camouflaged by Russian military vehicles. Ukrainian soldiers only need to take a photo with their smartphones to instantly receive detailed information about characteristics, protection systems, weapons, and propulsion. It is therefore unlikely that North Korean agents will be able to move freely on Ukrainian territory. Intercepting and analyzing North Korean radio frequencies could be of great importance. Ukraine can then locate North Korean units and interfere with their activities. Although the full extent of the capabilities of North Korean military agents is unknown, Ukraine can measure and protect Ukrainian communications and drone operations against North Korea's electronic warfare capability through anti-jamming technologies. The disclosure of these agents could drive a wedge between Jong-un and Putin. Jong-un had already put himself in danger by sending tens of thousands of soldiers and hundreds of agents. Now, we have witnessed Putin using these troops and agents according to his own will as part of his invasion strategy. But these soldiers are seen as special troops, and they take a long time and are very difficult to train. So by putting his most experienced and skilled soldiers at Putin's disposal, Jong-un is essentially treating them as cannon fodder. In return, Putin provides North Korea with military technology. You have soldiers on one side and military technology on the other. At the moment, for Jong-un, the military technology provided by Russia seems to be more valuable than the lives of North Korean soldiers. The dynamics of the multifaceted conflict in Ukraine are further complicated by the involvement of North Korean spies in Russia's campaign in Ukraine. Reportedly sent for surveillance, intelligence gathering, electronic warfare, and special operations, North Korean spies directly jeopardize Ukraine's operational security and military strategy. So how can Ukraine prevent North Korean spies? And what did Jong-un get from Russia that has now rendered his own soldiers blind? There have been valuable statements from U.S. military officials on this issue. The commander of the U.S. Pacific Command suggested that Putin would provide North Korea with fighter jets in exchange for the thousands of troops Putin allegedly sent to support Pyongyang's war against Ukraine. Admiral Samuel Paparo, commander of the Indo-Pacific Command, told reporters that Kim Jong-un's regime is preparing to take delivery of Soviet-era MiG-29 and Su-27 fighter jets introduced 40 years ago. The critical revelations follow reports, confirmed by the Pentagon, that thousands of North Korean troops have been deployed to the Russian frontline region of Kursk, where Ukrainian forces have been counterattacking since August. Paparo emphasized that while MiG-29s and Su-27s are not modern platforms, they remain formidable assets capable of supporting North Korea's air power. Pyongyang's fleet of fighter jets was purchased from the Soviet Union and later from China. In exchange for these Russian planes, Jong-un is acting without regard for the lives of his own soldiers. The North Korean leader's main objective is to put more pressure on South Korea. But North Korea's arch-rival South Korea uses upgraded versions of US-made F-15 and F-16 fighter jets, F-35 stealth fighters, and fighter jets like the KAI T-50. So even if Jong-un could buy Soviet-era aircraft from Russia, it seems unlikely that he would be able to use them effectively to corner South Korea. South Korea's fighter jets are far more modern and powerful. Ukraine, on the other hand, continues to operate older F-16s supplied by its European allies and is set to receive additional batches next year. France has also committed Mirage 2000s to Ukraine, fighters like MiG-29s and Su-27s that entered service nearly 40 years ago. Even these aircraft are thought to be able to cope with the jets Russia has given to North Korea. Beyond the fighter jets, Russia has a broader cooperation with North Korea. The United States and its allies have warned that this expanding military relationship could lead to dangerous transfers of advanced technology to aid Pyongyang's UN-sanctioned ballistic missile and nuclear weapons programs. Last month, South Korea's defense minister announced that Russia had sent air defense missiles to North Korea in response to Pyongyang's decision to send more troops. Seoul also accused Pyongyang of sending thousands of containers of ammunition to replenish Russia's depleted stockpiles. Over the summer, Russian President Vladimir Putin and his North Korean counterpart Kim Jong-un signed a groundbreaking military cooperation agreement. According to this agreement, the two sides are likely to continue to take such threatening steps in the future. Russia's goal is to continue its occupation of Ukraine. For this, Putin can continue to double-cross Jong-un. As you all know, the number of Russian soldiers who have been eliminated, wounded, fled the front lines, or surrendered to the Ukrainian army is almost 700,000. Given this number, it seems that Putin has no other way out but Jong-un's soldiers. It is unlikely that an army that has to face such critical losses will be able to continue this war for a long time. Moreover, the Russian economy has grown by only 1% per year on average since the illegal seizure of Ukrainian territory in 2014. Russia's GDP has fallen from $2.3 trillion in 2013 to $1.9 trillion in current dollars. No longer a superpower, Russia is seen as what the late U.S. Senator John McCain memorably called a gas station disguised as a country. Ukrainian intelligence thinks so too. According to its latest reports, the war between Russia and Ukraine could end in late 2025 and early 2026. As the initial invasion turns into a war of attrition, understanding Russia's willingness to fight, its resources, and its ability to recover losses becomes critical to calculating the course of the war. Any war of attrition ultimately becomes a test of social resilience, war economy, diplomacy, and the ability to recover losses. As the war drags on, these problems intensify, bringing one side closer to a tipping point where the continuation of the war worsens its own position. Military production and the capacity to recover losses are among the tangible factors of war that can be calculated and well predicted. Russia has been forced into North Korea because it has suffered all these setbacks, but this partnership is now becoming dangerous on a global scale. China is of the same mind. She has been the biggest supporter of Putin and Kim in recent years. China's Xi sees both leaders as partners in confronting the US-led world order. But Xi's government has been publicly silent on the dispatch of North Korean troops to Russia. The government's reaction could be a sign that the Chinese president is not happy with this arrangement. In fact, the Kim-Putin partnership risks adding economic pressure on China as it prepares for possible disruptions from tariffs that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened Xi with when he returns to the White House. It also weakens Beijing's argument that the U.S. should not have military alliances in the Indo-Pacific region. This is why Xi said on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Lima that China will not allow conflict and turmoil on the Korean peninsula and will not sit idly by while its strategic security and core interests are threatened. These statements were seen as Xi's moderate messages to the new U.S. administration. Instead of directly targeting the U.S., Xi talked about regional peace. With these statements, Xi may be preferring to escape the target of President-elect Donald Trump's possible economic sanctions against China rather than being caught in the middle of the Russia-North Korea alliance. It remains to be seen how effective China's efforts to rein in the North Korea-Russia partnership will be. But Ukraine needs to do something about it now. There are some interesting and intriguing theories that Kiev could effortlessly block this partnership. But how can Ukraine stop North Korean troops without firing a single shot? Some experts say that Ukraine can do this because these soldiers are not motivated by ideology or loyalty to Russia. Experts see the North Korean soldiers sent to Ukraine as victims of a cruel deal between the two leaders, Putin and Kim Jong-un. In fact, given this thesis, Ukraine can defeat this new threat without firing a shot by directly addressing the hearts and minds of these soldiers. The North Korean soldiers sent to Ukraine are usually between 17 and 27 years old and are being forced into service under Kim Jong-un's orders. For them, refusal is not an option. They have no personal stake in this war and no promise of reward. Unlike Russian mercenaries who may fight for financial gain, these North Koreans receive no remuneration, and their families back home receive no benefit from their service. In reality, they are seen as soldiers forced into a conflict that offers no purpose or protection. While the Storm Corps is allegedly better trained and physically stronger than North Korean soldiers, it falls short of international special forces standards due to inadequate equipment, nutrition, and combat experience. This makes it more likely that even the soldiers in the Corps will surrender to the Ukrainians. On the other hand, many of the North Korean soldiers deployed against Ukraine are likely to be facing their first real war, leading to fear and anxiety on the front line. The lack of proper training and preparation makes these soldiers more vulnerable to psychological pressure, as they struggle not only with the physical demands of combat, but also with overwhelming fear and uncertainty. In this context, psychological warfare is emerging as the most effective strategy against North Korean troops. These soldiers have no personal motivation to sacrifice their lives in a foreign country. They were sent as part of a backdoor deal, as pawns in Putin's desperate attempt to turn the tide of the war. The key to weakening their morale lies in emphasizing this fact. That is, the Ukrainians could reward North Korean soldiers on condition that they surrender. The former Ukrainian defense minister recently suggested that 90% of North Korean soldiers will die in this war. This dire prediction could be used to make these young men question whether their lives are worth sacrificing for Jong-un's financial gain and Putin's war ambitions. For Ukraine's most powerful weapon is not firepower, but the truth, communicated directly and powerfully. So what might be effective strategies to persuade North Korean soldiers? One such strategy is broadcasting in the North Korean language. As South Korea has done for years in the DMZ, the Ukrainians could place loudspeakers near the front lines to broadcast 24/7 in Korean. These broadcasts could emphasize the futility of the mission, the lack of reward, and the fact that Kim Jong-un profits from his deployments without offering anything in return. Another strategy could be leafleting with drones. Together with drones, Ukrainians could distribute leaflets that reveal the truth about Kim Jong-un's deal with Putin, and the lack of real compensation for the soldiers. The leaflets could also include details about potential safe harbors and surrender instructions, encouraging them to make a choice between survival and freedom. A third strategy could be portable radios. The Ukrainians could leave small radios tuned to Korean broadcasts that could reach these soldiers day and night. These broadcasts could include the voices of former North Korean soldiers sharing their personal experiences of life in South Korea and urging their comrades to seek freedom. The fourth tactic could be psychological warfare units. Specialized psychological warfare teams could be deployed, including North Korean defectors who understand the mindset and language of these units. This approach can be incredibly effective because these defectors know how to communicate messages that resonate with deployed troops. The fifth method could be a project to establish a network of safe houses, food sources, and counseling teams to psychologically stabilize defectors after surrender. This project would be critical for immediate security and reassurance to encourage more North Korean soldiers to flee the front lines. Ukrainian military officials have also made important assessments about how to get North Korean soldiers to give up fighting for Russia. In their view, the greatest weapon against these soldiers is reality. Kim Jong-un's greed and the reality of their situation can break the psychological chains that bind them to a regime that sees them as expendable. Many of these soldiers have never tasted freedom. They have been brainwashed to believe that loyalty to Kim is the only way to survive. But when faced with the choice to surrender and have a new life, most North Korean soldiers can choose hope over fear. So in this war, Ukraine has an opportunity not only to neutralize a new threat, but also to save the lives of young men who didn't want to be there in the first place. By targeting their morale, Ukraine can stop North Korean troops without firing a single bullet and turn this challenge into a powerful statement for freedom. In such a situation, even the groups of agents that North Korea sends to the front lines for Russia might stop fighting and collecting data and join Ukraine's side. This could be an incredible advantage for Ukraine. The North Koreans who surrender could build a new life and free themselves from the pressure of Jong-un and Putin. Surrender could happen one by one and then en masse. The mass surrender of the North Koreans could even put an end to the military cooperation between Jong-un and Putin. It would mean a global defeat for both Putin and Jong-un. Thank you for tuning in.